All right, Rosh Chodesh Type, Kodesh Type. Let's go along quickly. Just finishing up on the and we only have a few minutes. The Rosh Chodesh diving is a little bit longer, pushing us back a little bit into the day. But what else do we have to look forward to? We have lots to do. So let's take a quick thrust and pick up at number 3. Page 382, number 3, building the sanctuary in every Jewish heart. It says, based on the above, a further point requires clarification. There is yet another difference between the donations for the sockets and the donations for the sanctuary as a whole. Only the men, not the women, according to Exodus 38, chapter 26 verse, were obligated to give the half shekel for the sockets, and they were so obligated only when they were over 20 years old, not younger. And that's off of Tosfos Yom Tiv Shekalim 1:4. By contrast, with regards to the donations for the sanctuary as a whole, both men and women gave. Indeed, the verse in Shemais 35:22, and the men brought what the women, is interpreted to mean that the donations of the men were secondary to those of the women, according to Ramban on that verse. Moreover, even children below the age of bar and bas mitzvah, the boys 13, the women, the girls 12, brought donations to the sanctuary, as stated in Avos Sarai, Nisan, Nasan. According to the above explanation, it would appear that the opposite approach should have been follow Kabbalah, Soul, and Bittul, these two things that every Jew has in them outside of this emotional or intellectual capacity that stem from the essence of the soul, which are reflected in the donations for the sockets, as we were talking about yesterday, are qualities that relate to every Jewish man and woman, and indeed, even the children, mamash. We know that the children will be able to see Geula. By contrast, structured divine service involving a person's kochos panemium and kochos makafim, which we were talking about yesterday. The inner powers and the makam are like like these powers, like will, pleasure, and faith, that are paralleled by these donations for the sanctuary as a whole, and how we're comparing that with these powers of will, and also the inner powers, like your intellectual and emotional capacities. Is primarily related to an adult male, one whose inner powers are fully developed and on a level appropriate for inward divine service. Another point requires clarification. There are authorities, the first opinion in Talmud Yerushalmi Shekalim 1:1, who explain that the commandment in Exodus 30:15, the rich shall not give more, nor shall the poor give less, refers to the donation of the half shekel given for the sockets. In spiritual terms, the difference between the rich and the poor is reflected by our sage's statement in Nedarim 41a, the classification of one as poor is dependent solely on the person's dearth of knowledge. Dearth, let's take a quick look, because I want to know what we're talking about here. I'm thinking that's like the width or something like girth, like the girth, but let's take a quick look since we have it right here. Dearth, definition, a scarcity or lack of something. So the classification of one as poor is dependent solely on the person's dearth of knowledge. So there's scarcity of knowledge. This raises the question: knowledge is one of a person's kolchos panemium, these inner powers, and says are identified with organs within a person's body, the heart and the brain, and can be controlled by the person's conscious mind, which is still important here as we're continuing along. Why then does the Torah hint at the distinction between levels of knowledge alluded to by wealth and poverty with regard to the donations made for the sockets, which allude to Kabbalah's ol, that stems from the essence of the soul? True, the Torah states that a distinction should not be made. Even so, seemingly all that should be said is that everyone should give a uniform sum, this half shekel, nothing else. So why mention giving more or less? The above questions can be resolved by explaining the order of the divine service a person carries out throughout the day, and that way building and erecting his inner spiritual sanctuary. When we were talking yesterday about to make the sanctuary, and I will dwell within them as opposed within it. A Jew, all of us begin our daily service by reciting Modeh and we talked about the power of the Modeh previously. This prayer when we wake up and how the Jew is never separated from the Modeh immediately upon arising from sleep, before washing his hands with nekel or even while a spirit of impurity rests upon them. Modeh is then, on a simple level, the reason Modeh may be recited, recapping before the washing of one's hands. A statement does not contain any of God's names, and i.e. it's on a lower level than God's names. However, from an inner, this mystical perspective, the opposite is actually true. As we recapped on before, none of God's names are included in the Modeh. It can be recited before nekel or washing the hands because this acknowledgement is sourced in the essence of the soul that relates to God's essence, which cannot be alluded to by any name. To cite a parallel, none of God's names are mentioned in the Purim Megillah, which we're about to come to, and all the learning that we're going to do there. We're going to work on the Chayev Inish. We're going to work on the purple book from Kihas on the Megillah, and we're also going to work on Journey of the Soul. God help us to be able to cover all those things in the next couple of weeks, because the miracle of Purim was rooted in God's essence that transcends all names, and there's lengthy explanations on that in Kuntras and Yanos Shel Teres HaChassidus in section 11. So this Modeh is recited then because it expresses the oh my gosh, a thankful acknowledgement and Kabbalah soul that stem from the essence of the soul. No impurity can reach or affect that level. And we learn that on the Hayam entry one day after the 11th of Shvat is where we're reviewing that. Consequently, this relates to and is found within every Jew, man, woman, and child. And we still got quite a fold to do. So let's pause here, and we will pick up with this later. Good Rosh for you. Increase in joy, be joyous, be happy, and see every bracha revealed and concealed. May it all open up for us in this time of Ikvesa Di Mashiach.